everyone. Welcome back to the next episode of Breath of Life Conversations. Today is another Shits and Giggles episode. And I am these Shits and Giggles episodes are really starting to like mess with me. I had such high like thoughts around them of like how I was gonna do them, and they were gonna be one thing, and they're changing drastically. Like what I initially thought they were going to be, they are not. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm okay with it. But it is shocking to me every time I sit down to record one of these, how they turn out to be. So here's the next one. Here's the next one. I So many of these are becoming like just random thoughts that I had, or like moments that I feel like you guys need to know. And the thought that I had today was, we have this conversation about authenticity all the time, right? That it's important to be your authentic self. It's important to show who you are to the people, particularly when you're in a situation like for me, which is I want to create impact. I want to be known. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. I want the world to be able to benefit from what I have to teach and the gifts and power that I have inside of me. And so we talk about this, right? We talk about, you need to show up authentically as your real self. And there's even conversations now being had about how you need to show up not as your authentic self right now, but as the authentic self that you're going to be, right? Like you project into the future a little bit, and you sit and say, okay, so I have this I have this goal, this dream, this intention of becoming this individual who is going to have $1 million, or is going to be known as a thought leader, and is going to be on stages, and is going to be giving speeches, and is going to have all of these amazing things, right? And so you think about who that person is going to be, and you try to be authentically them, right? And we call this divine embodiment. We call this identity embodiment. If you're in my world, that's what I call it, is identity embodiment. And at the end of the day, it all just comes around to you're supposed to be being authentic. But here's my question to all of you. What if the being authentic, what if, and let me rephrase that because I was about to come out wrong. What if being authentically that individual that has all of the things, right, and is known and is in your mind right now fabulous, right, is actually not? What if being authentically that person actually means that a lot of people aren't going to like you? And not even just like a lot of people, but like everyone. This is a thought that I've had. Now, obviously, a lot of intuitives, a lot of light workers are going to turn and say, well, no, that's like impossible. That if you are authentically you, that people are going to be drawn to that. They're going to be attracted to them. And I really am like, there is nuance here that should be discussed. Like, you can actually be authentically yourself and be a like quote unquote bad person. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not judging anyone for how it is that they're showing up or not showing up. I don't want it to be that. I don't want this to turn into like we sit and now parse out what are good qualities versus bad qualities, good actions versus bad actions, because when you get high enough in your evolution, when you get high enough in your enlightenment, you realize that like nothing matters. And then, of course, once you realize nothing matters, then everything matters. And you just, it becomes this very circular, very nuanced conversation that really comes down to you deciding that in the present moment, what makes the most sense, right? So in a present moment, if nobody's hurting you, it would be bad, quote unquote, right, to hurt someone if they're not trying to hurt you, right? But obviously, if that situation were to change, then that the outcome, right, and what we deem as appropriate or as good or as acceptable, right, changes. And I think that's why being human is so hard and is so tough, and why being authentic can be so hard and so tough. So, for example, people will give me a lot of flack about how blunt I am and how aggressive I can be and how detailed I can be. I hear it so often. I just last night, y'all, my I was talking to my mom, and my baby nephew was bouncing around and he was just chatty. He was just very chatty. And my mom said, this is the creator basically giving you a good dose of what you were like when you were a kid. She said, this is exactly what you were like. You would talk all the time and it would be so detail oriented. And eventually I would just have to say to you, get to the point. Like, what is the point? And and to this day, I am still a person that finds it really difficult to truncate my conversations. I will admit to y'all, these episodes, these, like, I try to keep them less than 15 minutes, are very tough for me because there's so much that I want to say and there's so much that I want to get across. But I know that people want me to get to the point, and they don't want to sit and listen to me go on and on and on for 3 hours. And I get it. I get it. But it does bring up that point of, if I'm being authentically me, then shouldn't people have to just like deal with that? Deal with me having, all of the details and all of that, and being blunt and being somewhat aggressive and finding value in that. And then you get to the place where people say, well, if you want to make an impact, then you have to not be so alienating. And at least until you have a certain level of influence, that once you have a certain level of influence, go ahead and be as blunt and audacious and mean even. I shouldn't say mean. I don't think that people necessarily want to be mean. Well, let me take that back. I'm sure that there are some people who want to be mean. I don't. I don't want people to think that I'm mean, but I can see how some of the thoughts that I might have might come across that way. But then once again, we're right back to, well, me not expressing those in whatever way that I feel like is the best way for me to express it. Wouldn't me holding back and not be me not being authentic? It's a thought, right? And it's one that I don't think many people spend too much time on. I think ultimately what I've come down to is that when you're first starting off, likability and people really being able to kind of get behind your better angels is the way that you start. And then as you grow in popularity, or as you grow in influence, or as you gain more traction in the world, then you can start to be maybe more yourself and show some of your maybe less perfectness about you. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I would love to see comments on this episode. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. Do you think that you can come straight out of the gate being your most authentic self, your dirtiest, your grimiest, your most blunt, your most aggressive, your whoever it is that you are. And let me just say that I think that there's a whole other conversation to be had, that what if at your base you're not that? What if at your base, you're most authentic, you are just the most kindest, most soft-spoken, most feminine, most just cuddly, cute little individual that you could possibly be? And, what does that sort of authenticity look like? And can you get farther when that is your truly authentic self? I think that that's a whole different conversation. But, tell me what you think about this. I'd love to see the comments, and DM me on Instagram. Well, that is this episode. I'm really curious to see what people think about this one. Well, everyone, that is all I have for you today. Have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and we will see you next time on the next Breath of Life Conversations. Bye, y'all.